And now we look at food as like it's just something to do. Like it's simply only to gratify your desires, to give you something to taste, to only for enjoyment. But they're also cheap, so they don't cost as much money, very easily accessible, and they're colorful. They have the perfect textures, and nutritional value is slim to none. As a matter of fact, a lot of what these foods have are additives and things that are known, maybe not by us, but by the scientific world and by the government and whatnot, known to cause health problems. This is what you can do about your health, a podcast about how you can make your body healthy, strong, fit, and inhospitable to disease. I'm Sean McClendon, your host. I'm a certified personal trainer, author, and health and fitness enthusiast. Thank you for joining me today. The information on this podcast is based on personal research, experience, and opinion, and is not meant to be a substitute for advice from a doctor or a physician. You are advised to consult your doctor or physician before making any changes to your lifestyle. All right, so I actually recorded a whole episode, 30 minutes worth of material, and it just went away. And so, I don't know, it's kind of frustrating, but it is what it is. But I'm going to condense for the sake of time, and even also just for the sake of just being more getting to the point. I'm gonna condense what I talked about here. Before we get into it, I want to let you know about my gold level patron group. If you go to patreon.com/Sean B2B Fitness and you join my support group as a gold level patron, then you will have the ability to submit your questions and answers. No, your questions to be answered on my weekly webinars that I do on Saturday mornings. You also get access to my mini workouts. I have a series of 10 to 15 minute body weight mini workouts you can do in your home. I have a copy of my book available for that group. My fat loss workbook, 8 weeks to transform your diet and your health, and other things. I'm steadily adding workouts. You get access to past webinars the recordings of my weekly webinars. So you don't want to miss that. These are things that are going to help you on your health journey. Workouts, like I say, the fat loss workbook that you can work through. And then you get access to me being able to submit questions and even topics for my future webinars. So you don't want to miss that. Go to patreon.com/Sean B2B Fitness and get that exclusive access. All right. So the motivation for me recording this podcast episode is I went to the grocery store and I'm going to be kind of eating on my little smoothie here. I went to the grocery store the other day. By the way, my smoothie is frozen berries, kefir, which is kind of like a liquid yogurt, which is a good way to consume dairy. I don't think that we should consume a whole lot of dairy, but typically yogurt and stuff like kefir, which is similar, are better because the bacteria help to break down the lactose. Okay, which is what tends to be problematic. I went to the grocery store the other day, and I walked by a lady who had a cart full of processed food, tons of packs of hot dogs, chips, and other stuff I can't quite remember. But things like I don't know if she had any punch or whatever, but like I think white bread and all this kind of stuff. Tons of processed food. Now, I'm not saying this to bash her or anything like that. But it grieves me because I know without a shadow of a doubt that us eating these ways is like the main contributor, the main reason we have such a disease burden in the Black community, and then even also in America as a whole. But the sad part about it is that we don't really understand that. We don't understand how big of a problem it is. And the reason why is because the way that we look at eating has changed. Eating is meant to primarily be a way of sustaining your body. Eating is primarily for nutrition. And when I say nutrition, what that means is you are giving your body whatever it needs to continue to live and to thrive. That's really the main reason that's the main purpose of food. But what we have evolved to seeing food as the purpose of food is we've evolved in the way we see food is what I'm trying to say. And now we look at food as like it's just something to do. Like it's simply only to gratify your desires, to give you something to taste, to only for enjoyment. And so we've leaned toward foods now that are not only very sweet, very salty, whatever, but they're also cheap, so they don't cost as much money, very easily accessible. And they're colorful, they have the perfect textures, the perfect all that. And nutritional value is slim to none. As a matter of fact, a lot of what these foods have are additives and things that are known, maybe not by us, but by the scientific world and by the government and whatnot, known to cause health problems, especially when consumed year after year after year after decade. They're known to cause health problems. So what I did, I'm not going to go through it like I did in my previous recording that you won't be able to see because it doesn't exist anymore. I looked at the ingredients list for a popular hot dog company to look to see what what ingredients were and which ingredients were just like derivatives and additives. And so here are the ingredients. I'm not going to mention the brand. It's not important. But here are the additives. Hold on. I mean, not the additives. Here are the ingredients. Mechanically separated chicken, pork, water, corn syrup, potassium lactate. Contains 2% or less of salt, sodium phosphate, natural flavor, beef stock, sodium diacetate, sodium erythorbate, maltodextrin, paprika extract, and sodium nitrate. Now, before when I was recording this episode, I was kind of going into the details of what all those weird things were. But I'm not going to do that. I just want you to consider this. So, first of all, in case you didn't know, mechanically separated chicken, I actually found some details about what that is from the USDA. And that's like chicken or pork or whatever that has been mechanically separated from like bones or whatever. So like, like we have all these different cuts of meat. And so I'm guessing what that means is after all the meat is cut off the bones and everything, like the breast and the roast and the this and that, then you still have whatever residual meat is left on the bone. And so there's a process of mechanically separating that last bit of meat from those bones and creating a type of paste slurry that they refer to in the USDA as mechanically separated chicken or pork or whatever. Let me say this too. It's important to understand that a lot of the things that you see on your ingredient list and that you don't really know what they are, like that type of stuff, has very specific definitions of what it is, what the government allows stuff to be called. And unfortunately, a lot of times, the way that things are phrased is misleading. It allows companies to put stuff in their products where we don't know exactly what it is, but the government kind of says, okay, you can call it this. So really, we all know what's happening. There's a psychological effect. We look at, case in point, you remember I said natural flavor. Natural flavor, we look at the word natural. That has a psychological effect on us. Oh, okay. Must not be that bad. However, there is a very specific definition for that. And I got this one from the Food and Drug Administration. It says the term natural flavor or natural flavoring means the essential oil, oleoresin, essence or extractive, protein hydrolysate, hydrolysate, distillate, or any product of roasting, heating, or enzymolysis, which contains the flavoring constituents derived from a spice, fruit or fruit juice, vegetable or vegetable juice, edible yeast, herb, bark, bud, root, leaf, or similar plant material, meat, seafood, poultry, eggs, dairy products, or fermentation products thereof, whose significant function in food is flavoring rather than nutritional. So basically, natural flavor or natural flavoring is it comes from natural sources, but it could be anything though. Um, whatever you can kind of pull off from the, like I said, roasting, heating, enzymolysis. I'm not totally sure what that is, but it has to do with enzymes, and lysis means to split. So, so it must be some process of like putting enzymes in food and kind of getting whatever derivatives from that whole process. Um, Anyhow, I digress. Here's the main thing. Stuff comes from natural sources, but it could be anything. I remember learning more about the difference between vanilla extract and vanilla flavoring, imitation vanilla. Vanilla extract is actual vanilla. Imitation vanilla or vanilla flavoring, if I remember this correctly, comes from pine needles. So it can be called a natural flavor, but it's not vanilla. It's a way of kind of pulling a certain type of something out of pine needles that kind of ends up kind of like producing a similar flavor to vanilla extract. So, and you create this imitation kind of thing. So it's different. It comes from something natural, but it's just used to mimic something else. So it gets a little bit weird, but you can just call it all natural flavor. So whenever you're making your homemade vanilla ice cream or you're doing your, I don't know, your cookies or whatever, you really got pine needles in there, which I don't know. You just got to figure out how you feel about that. But anyway, let me keep on going. A lot of things are defined very specifically by the government to allow companies to put certain things on their labels, so they don't have to put explicitly what it is. Because if you got your imitation vanilla and it said pine needle extract, you would think twice about that, wouldn't you? You would think twice about it. But if it says natural flavor, then you look at it and you just put it right up in the cart. I'm not saying necessarily that pine needle flavoring is bad, but it's not really what you. It's not vanilla. But guess why we get the vanilla flavoring though? We get it because it's way cheaper. Because yeah, it's true. Vanilla extract is expensive. It's very expensive. But anyway, I digress. The list of stuff I read, the other things, the compounds, the potassium lactate, sodium phosphate, sodium nitrate, and so on and so forth. Those things, if you look them up, and I just don't want to read them now because it kind of took a long time. Those things are largely to either add a certain texture, taste, or to improve the shelf life of a product. Nutritionally, there's no consideration. Matter of fact, nutritionally, a lot of those things are linked to health problems. Sodium nitrite is a known carcinogen. And it's in bologna and lunch meat and all that kind of stuff typically, unless you get some without it, which is what I try to do whenever I actually eat that stuff. But the like I told you in the beginning, the primary purpose of food, the way that God made it, was for nutrition. But he did make stuff taste good. But what has happened is the way the industry works and all this kind of stuff, food is now more so we've been taught to kind of think about food from taste standpoint first. That's why a lot of times we have difficulty with feeding our kids stuff. We give them all kind of processed food, which is like the worst thing you can do for somebody who's in their foundational stages where their body is really building, going through growth spurts and stuff like that. So they're really building their bodies off of junk. But we don't understand that because we've been taught to kind of look at stuff from a convenience and fulfilling desire kind of standpoint. And so we're missing out on the real true purpose of food. And we're therefore also causing ourselves to have health problems that we end up not really linking the food as strongly as we should. And so we go to the doctor. So it really kind of creates this whole cycle where you kind of eat yourself sick, but you don't necessarily link it to the food. You go to the doctor, get medicines and different kind of things that won't fix the problem because you're not really fixing the problem at the root. And you may even have health problems as a result of taking different kind of medicines and stuff as well. And it just goes on and on and on until you get sicker and sicker. I'm not saying all medicine is bad. A lot of that stuff is useful. But you see my point? So we've created this system. We've created a system where we're eating ourselves sick because of the way that we've been conditioned to look at food differently than its original intent. Again, I'm not saying food is meant to be nasty, but like we actually would enjoy natural food if that was all that we ate. But when you eat hyper salted, full of preservatives, and so on and so forth type of food, when you only eat that, that's what you're used to. And so other stuff tastes bland. But your body will adjust if you give it what it needs, because that's really what it recognizes and what it's really looking for. Um, like I say, some of these things are meant to extend shelf life. Why does a food need shelf life extension? What shelf are we talking about? We're talking about the shelves on the grocery store, at the grocery stores. So it's gonna stay longer on your shelf too. But think about this. Decay, rotting, all that kind of stuff is a natural process. This is a part of the system that we come from. So we extend the life. What does that introduce into the system, the way things actually work? What happens when you consume preservatives and you consume a whole lot of preservatives and whatnot? What is that doing to us? What kind of complications does that introduce into the natural order of things? You see what I'm saying? So this is why we really got to think about this. And we don't know to think about it, and we don't know to associate it very clearly with disease, high blood pressure, type 2 diabetes, kidney disease, gout, various forms of cancer, autoimmune diseases, arthritis, premature aging, and the list goes on and on and on. Acne, like skin problems and other hormonal problems, and so on and so forth. But we still, because of the way we've been taught, we look at all this stuff as happenstance. We look at it as like luck of the draw. Well, but it's not really quite like that. It has a cause, especially when you consider how far off we are. I just hope that somebody gets this, man. Please understand that you cannot sustain life off of a grocery cart full of processed food. It has to be coming from the same thing we come from, mostly. Of course, ideally 100% whole food. I don't do 100% whole food. I do mostly whole food. But you want to eat at least mostly whole food, fruits, vegetables. Um, if you do bread that's not necessarily full of corn syrup and all that kind of stuff. Heartier whole grain bread, but not too much of that either. That causes, that contributes to obesity and whatnot. Meats, um, not necessarily a lot of processed meat. I wouldn't necessarily encourage a lot of dairy. Like I said, maybe unless you do, do like yogurt or something like that because of, what the bacteria does to the, to the lactose and whatnot. But just understand, you cannot separate what you eat from disease. You can't. It's like it's a major contributor. But you not knowing that is causing you to destroy your health. You not knowing that also lines the pockets of the companies that produce all of that stuff. So it actually, to be honest, it is profitable to them if you don't know it, if you're ignorant to the fact. The information is out there, and even like, the definitions by the FDA and all that kind of stuff. They put those things out there, but everybody knows you're not gonna, look at that stuff. The average person's not gonna look it up. So you're just gonna remain in ignorance. That's why it's so important to not remain ignorant and just kind of put your head in the sand about the different kind of foods you eat, because all you're doing is just kind of like keeping yourself unaware of like what's going to happen, eating a certain way. I don't say this to scare you, but the thing is, if you really want to take care of your health, you have to pay attention to stuff. This is why I always say, and I'll let this be it. This is why I always say, with the whole fat loss thing, which I talk about a lot, you can't just focus on losing fat without actually thinking about the content of what you're eating. Fat loss is not really the most important thing at all. It's really your health. It's your health. That's really the thing. And being overweight or obese is like a byproduct of not eating the right kind of foods and not doing the right kind of things with your body. So if you correct the big thing, the health stuff, then fat loss is a natural side effect of that, a natural good consequence. Okay, let me stop there because I could go on and on and on. But if this has impacted you, comment, man. Let me know what you think. Difficulties you're having with like not eating whole foods and stuff like that, or any other thoughts that you have about this subject, questions and whatnot. Remember, if you want to submit questions for me to answer, in my free webinars, which you're welcome to come, they're typically on Saturdays at 8:30. The one this Saturday is going to be at 8 p.m. I had to change the time, but join my gold level patron group so you can submit your questions. You essentially receive a type of coaching from me, to be answered on the webinars, or even just, it could even be a whole topic for a webinar. Okay. Then you can get access to my 10 to 15 minute body weight workouts. I have a library of those, and I'm adding to those. You get a copy of my fat loss workbook and more. Copies of past or links to past webinars that I'm not putting on my YouTube channel. So anyhow, y'all join me there, man. It's not much every month, and you get access to me for that. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube. Make sure you share this episode, and always remember that your doctor is not responsible for your health. You are. God bless you.